It's responding to the realities of production capacity, the ability to produce at the yields that are forecast, and the fact that the provincial governments have rolled out distribution too slowly. Pricing is not meeting the criminal market because the government saw this as a revenue model rather than a health and safety model. And as a result, there are these conflicting inputs to the market that are creating disruption. Companies like Hexo are directly attacking that by pricing a range of their product at what they're describing as a discount price, but over the course of the next 5 years may come to be the normalized price. And the guys at Canopy did that a couple of years ago when they had a couple of their strains that they priced at a $5 a gram level. In the past, for the last 3-4 years, one of the key success factors has been the ability to stay ahead of the capital markets, to ensure you have enough cash to put into the ground to continue to tell your story. To the extent that that's true, it's because they are storytellers and they are individuals who are able to build a story around what their cannabis company can achieve. What's been missing in many cases, except a few, are the ability to actually execute and produce a product that customers want to buy and then want to buy a second and third and fourth time. The second factor is that for the first 5 years of the industry, the legalized portion, the regulated portion, was all about medical. And if you were an adult user, you didn't get a chance to experience what the cannabis was. We've had 1 year in the marketplace, and over the course of that year, the number of licensees has doubled, and yet it still takes approximately 1 year to go from your cultivation license to a sales license. And that's because it is a very difficult product to grow in a compliant way, such that the documents, the records, and the growers are able to continue to compile their information so that the government can trust the production capacity. So the stock market has responded to a slowness of sales because pricing was wrong and because the products that are produced aren't of a necessarily high quality, and the fact that the companies, when you do the financial analysis, don't have the yields and the financial returns that were promised. It's a difficult decision. The next best market, of course, is the United States. It's the biggest at what they do, and they're the biggest at everything. However, there is no such entity as the United States in the context of cannabis, because there are 51 different jurisdictions, each of them with different laws, different regulations, different drugs, and different formats that are allowed to be sold. So in Pennsylvania, they started off only allowed to sell edibles and vape pens and oils, and then after a year and a half, they had to add dried cannabis because the demand was so high. In other markets in the United States, you can only buy dried. In other markets, you can only buy oils. So there are 51 different jurisdictions, and so there really is no United States per se. The second challenge in the United States is that it's federally illegal, and the transfer of funds from Canada into a US business and back is unambiguously laundering cannabis money. There's no gray, it really is laundering money. The question is whether the police will ever go after it. So the next largest market, and it will be larger than the US, will be Europe. And Europe's a very large place, the EU. It goes from the UK all the way across to the stands. It's a very large market. It too is fractured because there are probably 29 different jurisdictions over there. So a different question to ask is, in which market can certain companies be successful? Not which ones are going to take over the world, but which ones are going to be successful in that unique market. And so in Canada, in Toronto, we have a company that produces craft beer in Amsterdam. Well, they're very good. They make a lot of money. They do very well. There's a beer company down on the Steam Whistle, down on the waterfront. An excellent beer company designed to be small. And so they're servicing a tight market of 8 million people in the GTA. So if we want to be successful in South Africa, if we want to be successful in Malta, if we want to be successful in the Philippines or Cambodia, find companies that can do that. I believe the single biggest mistake is impatience. They're looking for the same thing that happened between 2014 and 2016 or 17, and that is for the hockey stick to keep going up and valuations to keep going higher based on nothing but a promise. One of the original metrics used in cannabis was funded capacity, and the assumption was if you build it, they will grow. And the more land you have growing cannabis, the bigger, the better the company you are. Well, that's proven untrue because they can build these facilities, but they can't actually run or operate. So I would say impatience is the big one. The second is that investors haven't made mistakes by investing in certain companies. The sector was overvalued back then, and it is not surprising to find that there was a correction. So I don't know that they made a mistake. They made a mistake perhaps by going in as heavily as they did, but if they take a deep breath, just like the recession in 2008, in 2008 the stock market crashed. If you sold at that time and went into cash, you were in trouble. If you kept your stocks, they've now doubled since then. So you've done well. So it's a matter of patience. I think you have to do some careful due diligence. You can't just look at a report on Yahoo, Motley Fool, and listen to what they say, because they will put a report out on a company on one day that says they're the next best thing, and then the next day another article will come out and trash the company. So we want to believe what we want to believe. So we have to do our research. It's good to attend sessions like this to talk to people who've been in the industry, to understand who is capable of producing cannabis at a compliant level. It's my personal belief that there is not enough emphasis on the compliance officers because, and I've said this in many public speaking engagements, cannabis is a compliance industry. It's not an agricultural industry that suffers compliance. And so compliance is the most critical part of the process. The flower, it's an overstatement to say that it will grow itself. It won't, but if you run a sanitary compliant facility, you will get an outcome. You can enhance it, you can add all sorts of operational cleverness that will enhance your yield and make better plants. But if you are compliant at the baseline, you will have up products.